Coming up on this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast.
I don't want to limit myself, but if you want to make 200 grand a year, 500 grand a year, $10 million a year, you can still be extremely niche and only service one or two type of clients. For the first, 2 months, I just spent all day long on LinkedIn. Comments are absolutely massive because if your post gets 5 views, but the person who commented on it gets 20,000, there's an extra 20,000 eyeballs that have potential to see you.
Welcome to the Elite Recruiter Podcast with your host, Benjamin Mena, where we focus on what it takes to win in the recruiting game. We cover it all from sales, marketing, mindset, money, leadership, and placements.
I'm excited about this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast. The reason is I have a returning guest. This returning guest, when they got started in the recruiting game, they didn't start at an agency. They didn't work anywhere in the recruiting space. They learned from freaking YouTube and took YouTube learning to 50K months. Let me say that again. Knew nothing about recruiting, learned from YouTube, and took that to 50K months. So I'm so excited to have him back because I've been friends with him for a while. We've been having some killer conversations. And I think some of the success that he is having is because he did not learn some of the ways that we did things in the recruiting world. So he's having to kind of invent himself along the way. And inventing himself along the way, he's gotten $500,000 in inbound fees by becoming a magnetic recruiter in his space. And it's something definitely I feel like I should learn about. And I'm excited that you're going to learn too. And he's going to share kind of like what he's actually doing. How did he become magnetic? How did he become the go-to person where companies are actually chasing him down? And he has a waiting list of companies that want to work with him. So Parker Chaney, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, man. It's good to be back. It's been a while since I've been here. I think almost a year, if not longer, maybe less than that. But yeah, a lot's changed. Life's a lot different, but going good, going great. Love it every second of it. And always happy to be on the podcast and here with you and love every second of it.
For the listeners, please go back and listen to our last conversation together. Because he talks about what he did those early days. He talks about the pain that he dealt with. It took him 8 months to make that first placement. 8 months of working, learning the space, and then the waterfall came. And he talked about how he grew his agency up to the 50K month mark. So please go back and listen to that conversation because we're not going to do a deep dive into how he got here. We're going to do a deep dive into what he's actually doing that's working that you can implement right now into your recruiting business. But the only question I have, just for the listeners, those 8 months, how many times did you want to quit?
Every time. I mean, if I didn't have a kid, I tell people, if I didn't have a kid that I don't know if I would have been able to push myself like that. I would have just got another job like everybody else does, play it safe way. But in doing that, I got laid off again. And so if you guys watched the last podcast, so I got laid off twice, had a baby in between that. And just a little recap, the last time I got laid off was the same day my first candidate ever started. And so I was like, please, Lord, stay these 30 days. I'll give you a couple grand if you stay. I didn't end up saying that, but I was ready to. I'll give you some of the placement money if you stay. I am we just got out of the negative. Please, this is not fun. Please stay. They ended up staying and it was great. But yeah, those 8 months, were fun. It wasn't fun. I had to just figure it out and just had no time to do anything else but take massive action. And so really from having a kid, that really puts a pressure on you, especially when your wife doesn't work and you have no money because you don't have a job and you have no income. I mean, that really, when push comes to shove, you really figure it out, that's for sure.
That's awesome. But okay, so fast forward to today. Let's talk about this, all this inbound work that you've actually showed me some of these messages. What's going on? Especially because there's so many recruiters out there struggling for business.
Yeah, so the first 8 months, all I was doing was the NPC method that everybody does, tried and true, get you your resume, pull the info off, send it to a bunch of potential clients, try to get them to respond to you and then go on the call and ask for the business, right? Typical. That wasn't really working that well for me. And I was sending thousands of emails, making thousands of cold calls. And with everybody coming inbound with the LinkedIn post, it's been a complete game changer. And so a couple things that have been huge for it is niching down, which I say everybody needs to do. And a lot of people oh, I don't know if I want to do that or not. I don't want to limit myself, but if you want to make 200 grand a year, 500 grand a year, $10 million a year, you can still be extremely niche and only service one or two type of clients, right? You still can make a bunch of money that way. So niching down has been huge for that. And the inbound clients, the reason for that is from posting on LinkedIn And then I really only work on like 1 to 2 positions that are high in demand in my industry. Nobody else is really doing a great job at that. So that's been huge for me as well. But yeah, I literally have them fill out a form now that takes them 20, 30 minutes. They fill out the form. It goes into my list of 100 some companies that have taken the time to fill out the form. Like whenever I can open it back up, we can have a conversation. But it's been, I think, just about 12 months since I've onboarded the client because we just don't have the time and resources to. And our current clients keep us super busy. So it's been, it's a lot different. That's for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. So real quick. So I know NPCing is one of the things that everybody talks about when it comes to getting new business.
Yep.
Out of curiosity, we're going to dig into this. Like, why was MPC not working for you? Was it just like the type of the industry? Was it the level? Like, why?
So I'm not 100% sure on why the NPC method didn't work. I mean, I was sending a couple thousand emails every single month and cold calling as much as I can. Granted, no experience, so I'll take that into the case. And I mean, these clients are extremely busy and they get messages all the time from recruiters that are doing the NPC method. It's kind of got a warrant on it from what I was getting from talking to them. Like, they get these kind of emails all the time. It's kind of annoying. Like, I understand, depending on the position, it works great. It keeps working, keep on doing it. But with the NPC method, it was just, I mean, I was begging for these calls, begging for these clients, getting on the sales call, like, I'll take 10%, I'll take 12%, like, even taking that little bit of money, like, they still weren't wanting to sign up. And so I was like, I've got to try something else out. And so the NPC, like, I personally don't like it that much. Granted, it was the only thing on YouTube you could learn at the time, and it works great for everybody else, but I'm not sure why they weren't a fan of it. But granted, I was fairly new.
I feel like I've seen NPCs work better in some spaces than I do for others. Do you think it like was just the niche that you were focusing on? Or at that point in time, were you also focused in like 50 different directions?
Yeah. So I think it was a lot of, number one, the type of positions I was focusing on. Before I niched down, I just said like, hey, I'll just do supply chain and logistics like everybody else does, which can mean an array of things. It can be a forklift driver. It can be the operations manager. It can be a sales rep. Like, there's so many different things, and I was reaching out and having to relearn all these different roles all the time. And so not only am I learning a brand new business, I have no idea what I'm doing, any sort of open rec that I get, I have to relearn like, okay, what does this position actually need? What do they actually need? And I have to learn this new client and this new industry or type of space that I have no idea about. I think that was a lot of my issues as well with that method and not being niched down.
Okay. And when did you discover, and when did you actually niche down?
Yeah. So in January of that year, or the following year, so this had been 2 years ago, January of 22, niche down. Alex Hormozi's book came out, $100 million offers, and the first thing he talks about in there is niching down. And I forget what the 4 variables are, but they have to be in massive pain. They have to have money to pay you with. They have to be easy to target. And there's one other I can't remember, but I was like, okay, I'll niche down. And so I was like, well, what do I know? And then went through his little system, ended up going with freight brokers and freight brokerages, which is the industry I came from, which kind of just like made sense. And they have plenty of money. Believe me, they make a lot of money. And so they were also high in demand. Like, these people, the position I was recruiting for, like, they were starving for it. That was one other thing, the last point. They had to be a starving crowd. So they have to be absolutely dying for whatever it is you're offering. And so I think a combination of niching down and then also saying like, hey, you guys are starving. I'm the only hot dog stand out here. Like, let's do it. And that worked out really well for me.
Do you think too many recruiters are not looking at places where companies are starving?
I definitely think from a lot of people that are struggling, especially now, a lot of it is, I just don't think you're specialized enough. You can't get on a call with these clients and say, no, this is how it's going to happen. This is what you need to do. This is what the position needs. This is what you need to pay them. This is the type of person you need to look for. Like, these people that are going to be successful in this role. Like, you can't take that authoritative stance on the calls with the clients if like you don't specialize in one thing. If I was doing a bunch of different, it'd be a little bit more difficult. But I think that's been huge for me, was being able to get on the call and be like, no, this is how it's going to go because I'm the person that has the success with it. You've been having no success for the last 10 years. I've been having success with it. Let's do it this way. And they go, okay, like, this is the way we got to do it. And so it makes relationships a lot easier because I can kind of, say what I need to say, and this is how it's going to go. And if you don't want to work with me, I've got 99 people behind you waiting in line. So yeah, it's really nice.
And we want to talk about how like a recruiter can become that go-to person. So like, there are 50,000 ways I feel like we could start to get there. But one of the things I want to ask you is like, you really started shifting your LinkedIn presence. You really started like building out a network in your space. Like, How big is that space and how big is your network within your niche?
Yeah. So my niche being so narrowed down, I feel like I've either met everyone or talked to everyone or been connected with just about everyone that at least is active on LinkedIn. So freight brokerages, there's a couple thousand. I can't remember how many. There's probably over 20,000 of them. Probably way wrong on this, but I'm even niched down farther to a position that only maybe 5,000 of them have. And so like we're talking like very, very micro niche. And so there's probably 5,000 of those or so. And then, working with only 2 or 3 at a time, it's pretty narrow. And so in terms of how many people I've like connected with and how big it is, it's not that big. But I think I've networked and I know just about everybody in the space and everything in the space. And it's been really critical for our business and it's been huge. So I hope that answers the question.
And then fast forward. Okay, so now you've connected with everybody. You've spoken on the phone with everybody, but you're playing now a LinkedIn game. So you're now sucking them into your ecosystem. How are you doing that? How did you shift your LinkedIn profile from what it was like when you first started to where now you were, hey, can we work with you?
Yeah. So initially, having no business, I was just like, okay, someone told me, hey, you should post on LinkedIn. It's worked well for me. And so I just kind of went, okay, cool. And then just went crazy with it. For the first, like 2 months, I just spent all day long on LinkedIn. I was finding the people with the most amount of followers in our industry, the most amount of engagement, the posts who do well. And I had a list of like 60 people every day. I'd pull up their LinkedIn. I'm commenting on there. And when I see my comment, it says, freight broker recruiter, freight agent recruiter under my name on my headline. And they go to my profile, they visit it. I get a profile view. That's huge. Comments are absolutely massive because if your post gets 5 views, but the person who commented on it gets 20,000, there's an extra 20,000 eyeballs that have potential to see you, which comments are absolutely massive. And then there's also obviously making posts, showing that you are who you say you are, giving some backstory on yourself, like the story of myself about getting laid off twice, people really resonated with, getting burned by the industry, pretty common, people resonate with that. And then also showing like, hey, I actually do know what I'm talking about. I have industry experience. Here's the examples of that. Here's the success I've had. There's a bunch of different things too as well, but that's kind of the basis of it.
So real quick, you went and found the 60 most active people within the niche. What'd you do? Put them on a spreadsheet and just went to their profiles like every single day?
Yeah, so I just made like a Google Chrome folder on my profile, and I'd go to their activity, and I would star it. And so every day I'd right-click on the folder, open all 60 of them, and I'd go and I'd make sure I comment on it. I check it a couple times a day. And yeah, I mean, that was huge. I was getting thousands of profile views every single week with people reaching out. And that just 100x's your chances of people seeing you because you're everywhere. And I would ask them, if they sent me connection requests, like, hey, thanks for connecting. Was there anything about me or my profile that made you shoot me a connection? Like, where'd you find me? And a lot of people would say, I found you from so-and-so's comment on this or that. And it was just like, holy cow, like comments are massive.
I think that's key. Like I know a lot of people have talked on this podcast about like building out that Dream 100, like, your perfect list of companies, but you've built out the 60 people or the 100 people that the Dream 100 people that you're going to comment on every day or every other day. And so like everybody started seeing your face over and over again. So I think that's like probably one of the smartest moves I've heard when it comes to creating that inbound without posting constantly.
Yeah. And at first I was like, I have no idea what to write. And so what I would do was just like, I'd go to someone's profile that's got like good copywriting, and I would like take their post and then like try to think of some sort of idea, just like rewrite their post with my information on it. What do they say? Good artists create, great artists steal. And so kind of like taking what's working for somebody else, obviously, and then just implementing it into your own life and obviously changing it, not copying them, but you see what's working. I mean, you can do that any area of life, which is huge. LinkedIn has just changed my life drastically, and the brand has just been amazing.
So, and here's one of the things I think a lot of like old school recruiters don't get. I consider myself an old school recruiter, especially since I've been in this game for almost 2 decades now. LinkedIn has been completely different the first 20 years it existed. It was a great place to connect with people, message people, but it is turned into the place of the content creator and the content engager. So like listening to what has been working with Parker, who did not come from the old dog space of recruiting, like I'm going to go do that literally tonight, build out my Dream 100 of like people that I need to start commenting on within my space to help build that authority. Like, okay, so you did that. You started doing great copywriting. What else were you doing that was working to make sure that you became a magnetic recruiter?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things. I use this automation software called Skylead, which you guys can look up. And what you can do is you can add, at the time, you could add a little bit more. I was adding about 70 to 100 people per day on LinkedIn sending connection requests to my ideal clients every single day. So instead of that 100 on LinkedIn, I was sending 70 to 100, which, I mean, that's 700 to 1,000 a week, which is crazy. So it's kind of like botting your account, but also like these are real followers, real people, real potential clients. And that was huge. Another thing with that, there's a bunch of different hacks you can do with that. You go on LinkedIn search bar, you have a competitor, you click search, you go to followers of on the advanced settings, put those competitors in there, and then you put, CEO, hiring manager, whatever their title is. And then you can copy that, put it into the system, and it'll pull all of their followers that are your ICP of people that already follow somebody that is doing the same exact thing you do. And then you can basically steal them. And I got a lot of business from doing that because like they already are willing to buy.
Okay. Wait. Okay. So you are using software to literally steal other people's followers on LinkedIn.
Basically, yeah.
And you've gotten sales from that.
Yeah. Most of the beginning clients, most of them would say like, oh yeah, I saw you followed so-and-so. And like, oh yeah, we worked with them, not really anymore. They did work with them currently. And, I took over that business, but won a lot of business that way. But it was kind of nice because it's like, let's just say if you follow Joe Rogan and I see that you follow Joe Rogan, then more than likely, we have that thing in common. You like Joe Rogan, I do. Like I could sell you a Joe Rogan shirt or something like that. You know what I mean? Like they already followed a recruiter in my industry that does the same thing. Like it's super cool. It's a lot of fun. It's great.
Okay. So you've done copywriting, you've commenting, now you've been stealing connections and followers. What else are you doing?
Gosh, there's so many different things that I do. Now it's way different. I probably spend maybe 1 hour a week on the whole process. I really got it dialed in. Another big thing with those 60 to 100 people you find in your industry that you comment on their post, after a while, you become friends with those people. You're engaging on their content. You're talking back and forth, after you message them or if you reply on their post a couple times, send them a message like, love your content, whatever, start a conversation, help them out any way they can. I've got like so many referral partners just from doing that. Like I'll hop on a call, even though I can't sell them, we can still like, how can we help each other out? Love to meet you. Like it's like networking and going to all these in-person events, but on LinkedIn. One of my biggest clients came from a referral from somebody who I can never give money to and vice versa. Like it's just a network. We talked for half an hour and he sends me referrals all the time, clients and candidates, and very well respected in the industry, which I mean, that's massive. So building those relationships is huge.
That is awesome. Okay. So what else? What else are the secrets?
So we've got the software, got the posting. Now I've got stuff to where the AI, I can basically take information about me and my company and then have a bunch of post templates. And I can, last night I wrote some templates or some posts for a client. In about half an hour, I wrote about 20 posts, which, you do 3 posts a week. That's, 2 months worth, give or take. That speeds the process up so quickly.
Wait, you just said that you're writing posts for clients too?
Yeah. So the branding stuff was going super well for myself, and a big pushback from the position I was recruiting for, which is freight agents. They have a lot of issue with trust in the industry. Trust is a big issue in our industry. And so, especially in their case, this position, freight agents have their own book of business. And so, they're worth $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, sometimes up to $10 million. And these companies are trying to recruit them to come over to their company and bring their whole book of business, right? But a lot goes into that. And so these conversations they're having, all the pushback is like they don't trust them by the time they get on the call with them. And so these clients that I was working with, I was like, hey, this branding thing worked out pretty well for me. Like you came to me because of it. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, you already trusted me when you got on the call, right? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, I charge you a lot of money up front because you trusted me already, right? And they're like, yeah. I was like, let's try it out and do this branding thing for you and, get you guys set up with all the tools and systems and softwares and little hacks that I use and start posting on LinkedIn and see what happens. And I was like, give me 6 months. Like, I don't know if it'll work great for me, but like, just want to make sure. Because with recruiting, that was the only difficulty we were having was like, they don't have a presence online. People don't trust them by the time they come to them. And so I was like, all right, let's just try it out for 6 months. Whatever, got 2 clients now on a retainer for that, which has been huge and a lot of fun. And I knew it was going to work, but in the first month, they went from like 1 to 2 hires a month. This is with 4 full-time recruiters, okay? 1 to 2 hires a month max. It's an unlimited position. They hired 7 in the first month and added like, $30 million in revenue from those hires in their first month. And I was like, I wrote you guys like 5 posts. Like, this is crazy. Like the software's aren't even warmed up yet with adding people. Like, this is insane. But yeah, I've got 2 different clients I do that for, and it's been going great, helping out a lot.
When did you decide that you can open up additional lines of revenue within your recruiting business to still support your recruiting business and your clients?
Yeah. So since I've been only recruiting for the same clients for the past year and a half, under 5 clients, I've gotten different ways or different things that I can see. You work with somebody so long, like, hey, here's a constraint you guys have. Like, this is the issue you guys are dealing with. I can only provide so much value as like giving you guys leads. You can't close them. We've got to work something out here. And so I probably talked for 6 months about different ideas of what we can do together and ended up on the branding thing. And I was like, look, let me just set this up in a system. If it doesn't work in 3 months, we can stop the retainer, no big deal. But like, I'm pretty sure this has got to work. It worked well for me. And so, gosh, it's helped so much. And also with the recruiting side, with us recruiting for them, it makes our job so much easier because they have a brand now and they have a presence on LinkedIn and people trust them. And so our placements are going up because they've got a brand that's established. And so it's just been, it helps so much. Yeah.
You're charging them for marketing and then you're charging them for the placements right after that.
Yeah. I'm not charging them for their placements that they get with their own recruiters, but yeah, we're getting more because they have a brand now from the candidates we send them. They're like, oh yeah, I've seen them on there. That's cool. Blah, blah, blah. Tell me more about them. Yeah.
That's epic. That is so much fun. I feel like, we're talking software, we're talking LinkedIn copy, we're talking about using AI. How does a recruiter start learning how to work with all these systems and how to do this themselves and how to almost like copy Parker?
So recently I've created a group. So I've been creating all this training for these clients, right? For their recruiters, their team in-house. And after I realized, holy cow, this is working really great, I was like, well, I need to like take this training that I've already built and like show other recruiting business owners like how to use this stuff. Because I've seen, obviously, everyone talks about branding, but I haven't seen anyone do it in the same way that I do it, as far as I know. And so I put a bunch of stuff together and I've got a free group called the Recruiter Kingdom that you can join. And I've got, probably 6, 8 videos or so. I'm recording some more, just showing everybody like, here's my whole process. Here's what I do. Here's how I do it. And like, if you do just a fraction of it, you should see results. Like, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I'm just going to show you what's worked well for me and what's helped me out a lot. And I've already helped out a couple of recruiters and they're getting great results from it. And the brand is the best thing you could do for yourself, in my opinion, do for your business. Like, instead of spending all week long doing business development and bringing on new clients, you just like work with the same ones that give you a bunch of money, because the LTV, the lifetime value, goes up sky high. I think ours is like around 80,000 per client and growing. And so, my issue was bringing on new clients, got to learn a whole new client, got to learn their process, got to learn them, spend those 3-6 months. Okay, they're a terrible client. They don't want to pay you anyway. With the brand, like, everything changes. These companies like you before they even start working with you. It just makes the whole exchange better. They stay with you longer. They pay you more. There's less friction. Like, it's the best. I don't do any outbound at all.
When's the last time you've done outbound?
Probably early last year. It's been at least over a year and a half since I've done any client outbound.
Everything's been
even
inbound.
Yeah, even just like an automated message on LinkedIn. Like, no, I haven't done any of that. Like, all the people that I was adding in my industry, I didn't do anything. Like, they'll see my posts because I'm everywhere. They'll see my comments. Like, they'll see me eventually. And so that's just been my strategy on that. And I also don't have time to do an outbound or any need, because I've got 100 people that are filling out forms to work with me. So yeah.
Because you've like semi-automated this, like, and I know you have a family, out of curiosity, like, how many hours do you typically work a week?
So how many hours do I work? I probably work about 40, because I just love work so much, which is a good thing. Now, is there times where like, hey, honey, I don't feel like working too much this week? Maybe 5 hours or so at most is really what I need to do. I just love work. I just love work so much. It's the most fulfilling thing other than having a son and a family for me. Like, I just absolutely love work and can't get enough of it. But yeah, maybe 5 hours. And it's really nice, because all those times I would spend those 35 hours a week doing outbound and having sales calls and begging people for money and getting beat down. We want to pay you less. We need 6-month terms. Like, no, like, our terms for our W-2 positions are you pay 7 days, 60-day guarantee. Like, and people are paying 25, 30%, which is nuts. And so, yeah, like, the brand helps a lot.
Where are recruiters failing out there when it comes to inbound?
Yeah. So I think maybe not failing per se, but like, a lot of the sales calls that I would have during those 8 months is like me trying to convince them that like, I know what I'm doing and I have to build all this value while I'm on the call and convince them that I'm worth this much price and that they need to pay me this and I can actually fulfill the job, right? But with the brands, and just a little bit of activity, post a couple times a week, leave a couple comments, do a couple things like that. People come in, they could have been seeing your content for the past year, and then they finally decide to reach out to you. And so it's like being top of mind for every single potential client in my industry 24/7 was kind of the goal. And so like that might not work with me now, but eventually when they do, like I'm the person they're going to go to. And then when we get on the call, I don't have to convince you that I am who I say I am. Like you already trust me, which is crazy because like I had zero recruiting experience, zero. I had no idea what I was doing. And like just got my first placement and then hired a coach. I was like, please, like, can you show me how to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator or Recruiter? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what tools do you use? Like, I'm lost. Like, if I could do that, anybody can. But yeah, that's why I think they're not doing it. They're focusing too much more on like the traditional methods, which they work. That's fine. But I just think with the branding, give it an hour a week. Once you learn it, it'll change your life.
You jumped like into recruiting without any experience. What advice would you give to somebody that's looking at jumping into their own business, but they've been a recruiter before?
Yeah. So number one, have a kid and quit your job. You'll figure it out really quick. Don't actually do that, but that does help, believe me. I would say for somebody that's starting out, but they do have recruiting experience, you've already got a leg up on me. What I would do while maybe building a brand is like get some splits in the industry, work with somebody that you can fill those roles in the agency, but you're still working for yourself type of scenario, and start building that brand on LinkedIn and really niche down into a micro niche, if you will, positions that are high in demand from companies that have money to pay you, that they're just absolutely starving for this type of position. Like work with those, establish yourself as an authority in that industry, talk about yourself, talk about your experiences, everything like that. Start building that up, and then just like watch the inbound leads start coming in. If you do a couple things, it's really not that hard to stand out because the bar is so low right now. Like it's never been easier to start a business. It's never been easier to be successful. I just think like you just got to do a couple steps and you're there. So that's what I would recommend for sure.
Do you think too many recruiters are focusing on areas like that are sexy compared to areas that are starving?
Yeah, for sure. Like I think everyone and their brother starting a tech recruiting company or, a software engineering recruiting company, all the hot jobs, if you will, or crypto or whatever it may be. I think that tried and true, like Mike, I can't remember what his last name is, has got the manufacturing engineering recruiting company. He's hired like his fourth or fifth person. I think you might have had him on this podcast. I'm not sure. He's got a brand on LinkedIn, believe it or not. And he's crushing it. Believe it or not. It's crazy. And he's also niched down. That's crazy. He's killing it. I think like it's not the most sexy industry, if you will. I mean, it's recruiting engineers in the manufacturing space. Like it's nothing super cool or crazy, but clearly it pays well. I think he did like over $1 million in his first year, which I didn't do that, but whatever, just messing. Yeah, that's what I would do is niche down. Do you want to make money or do you want to be sexy? Or do you want both?
And do you think it's possible to do both?
Once you have money, then you can figure it out. Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. I also help with the Pinnacle Society, their podcast, and I actually just got done interviewing Mike last week for an episode with them. And we were talking like, his next year in business and building out a firm and all that stuff. So, but it's one of the interesting things that I'm seeing is people that have niched down in extremely unsexy industries are living sexy lives. But there's a lot of people, including myself, sharing this personally, have chased sexy industries. And you're like, hey, maybe things could be better.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely.
Maybe I can make my life a little easier so I can focus more time on the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Right. I know. You need to quit. By the end of this call, I'm getting you to quit your job. Podcast.
I think my job is my company.
I know. Put your 2 weeks in.
I'll go walk over to the mirror and give myself the notice.
Yeah. Just like,
right,
yeah.
Is there anything else that a recruiter should be thinking about when it comes to inbound? We covered a bunch, but is there anything else?
So we covered the setting up the automations and we covered posting content, and networking is the massive part. If you can spend 15, 20 minutes a day just commenting on people's posts, and then you have your profile optimized where you're niche down, of course, number one, but you have like on your headline, you're like, I had freight broker and freight agent recruiter. And so any comment I left on anybody with a big profile, they made a post and they comment, so many people saw my comment and went to my page. And I saw, okay, here's some info about him, even when I wasn't posting, comments even brought people inbound. Like it's really not that hard to stand out. It's insane. It's crazy. You don't have to leave massive value comments. You can just say, like I just say woo all the time or amen. Like I'm just there. It doesn't have to be extremely valuable, but I don't think there's really anything I left out. I'm sure there is, but networking and commenting and at least like build friends with people in the community, because people will connect you with other people because they like you, and people will work with you because they like you, and people will continue to because they like you. And that networking is probably the biggest thing for sure.
Okay, well, let's jump over to the quick fire questions. And like I said, they don't have to be quick answers. But I know we just talked about like what advice would you give to a new recruiter. You've kind of covered some stuff that like an old school dog like myself needs to freaking learn. So let's just go ahead and jump into like your favorite book. Has that changed?
I can't remember what I said last time.
Okay, then what is it now?
Gosh, my favorite book. I read like a book a week, I feel like. I think probably from a mindset perspective that really helped was Psycho-Cybernetics. But I can't remember, I think it's Baltz or Maxwell Baltz. I can't remember what his name was, but that was a big shift in my mindset of you can just like trick yourself into believing, you are who you say you are in your head, and you can become that type of person. And then that combined with Atomic Habits, that one for sure is huge. I think mindset is the biggest thing over anything.
Maxwell Maltz, but you mentioned tricking yourself into believing something. Like when you started actually making these placements, were you dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I had industry experience, so I knew what questions to ask. But in terms of like the whole recruiting, like I'm watching a YouTube video before I'm hopping on this onboarding call. Like, what do I need to know before the call? Like extreme imposter syndrome. But I feel like once that first check hit and like, oh crap, like this is kind of nice. I feel like you just have like a complete like switch in your brain go off. And I went from this person who's not confident, who believes it can happen, but doesn't really believe it, who just like has to see it happen, to like, if you told me like, hey, you got a year to be Mr. Olympia and bodybuilder champion of the world or whatever, I'd be like, sure, yeah, I can do it. Even though I haven't been working out for the past couple of months. Like I'm so like utterly like completely delusional, but confident in myself that whatever it is that I can put my mind to, I'm going to complete it one way or another. Like it's weird. I got that from my mom too. So she helps a lot.
Okay. I was going to ask if you've always had that self-belief, or did that like you breaking through that imposter syndrome is what kind of solidified your confidence as a recruiter?
Yeah. So my mom owns a Chick-fil-A now, and she's mid 50s, lower 50s. She'll probably watch this podcast, so I apologize if I'm wrong. And she instilled in me
40s
growing up.
40s.
Yeah, exactly. 35, I think. She instilled in me that like you can do whatever you set your mind to. Like there are no limits. And my whole entire childhood, that was things she really drilled into me, which has been phenomenal. And so she raised 5 kids. She's a rock star. I mean, we have one now, and no thank you. You're crazy. And she raised 5 kids, coached basketball, has a lot of successful basketball players that own big multi-million-dollar businesses that are going on Shark Tank and all that sort of stuff. Like she's got some great stuff there. And then she also, once all of us got older, decided like, hey, I want to own a Chick-fil-A. I haven't worked in, 25 years, but I just raised 5 kids. I want to own a Chick-fil-A. And she put her mind to it. And for like 5 or 6 years, after applying twice, became one of, I think 40,000 people apply a year. She applied twice, got rejected the first time, and then applied again. You have to wait 2 years. She finally got her to Chick-fil-A about a year and a half ago. She was actually just on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and they asked her, like, did you ever, like, not believe that it would happen? She's like, no doubt in my mind I was getting one. And I was like, that's exactly how I feel. And that's where I got it from. So that's been huge for me. And I love my mom. She's great.
What is your favorite tech tool at the moment?
I just use GPT for everything. I mean, everything. Every step of the way, everything I do. If I have notes or I get off a call and I want to write stuff down, I'll just throw up all these information over it. Like before we got on this podcast, I wanted to remember what I need to say so I can have notes so I can look at. And I just talked to it for 20 minutes, just dumping all this information over it, and it just organized it all for me. So I use GPT for literally everything. But other than that, Taplio is great for content creation and generating ideas. That's a good software to use. I think that's probably one of my favorites for sure. And then Skylead, of course, because, I mean, for the last 2 months, I haven't posted because too many clients are messaging me inbound. I literally had to make it stop. I haven't gained like over 1,000 followers just from that. And it's like my ICP still. And so like my LinkedIn's still growing.
Wait, you haven't posted and you're still growing?
Yeah, still growing. I still get messages every day now too. And I was like, I can't. Here's a form. I'll let you know. It's been a year since I onboarded someone, FYI, but people fill it out. People will fill it out.
So you didn't quit. Like during that 8 months, you've been growing, you've scaled, you've built it up. What do you think has been a major part of your personal success?
So I think number one was telling myself over and over again, like, if I don't quit, I can't fail. Like, sure, I might have some rough months. Sure, I might run out of money and be in the negative, which I have been multiple times, especially during those 8 months. If I don't quit and I continue to do the actions that will bring that result, the result will come eventually. And like, I just have to keep pushing through and only focus on that. And that's been like the number one thing, regardless of skill, regardless of talent, regardless of me having industry experience in the niche that I'm in, like regardless of that, you can do anything as long as you just like tell yourself, I can't lose if I don't quit. I'll figure it out eventually. It might take 5 months. It might take 5 years. It might take 50 years. Like, as long as I keep pushing towards that goal, I'll get it eventually.
And I know I asked you this question about a year, something months ago, the last time we spoke. If you can go back in time and have a conversation with yourself, what would you tell yourself when you just started your recruiting career, once you maybe like move forward a little bit, once you got things moving a little bit?
Yeah, so to go back, I'm probably honestly going to say the same thing. I can't remember what I said, but the last time, because I remember you asking me this question. If I were to go back and talk to myself, I think I would just like let them know, like, you don't have to be worried about all the details and worry about everything that's going to happen or the bills. Like, everything's going to work out eventually and it'll be all right. Just like continue working on it, continue pushing forward. Things are going to be okay. And no matter how bad life gets, life always gets a lot better after bad things happen. And I know that for sure because I've had a couple of things in life where crap hits the fan and right after that, life gets a lot better. And so anytime something horrible happens, life gets a lot better. And so just letting myself know that it's going to get better. You just got to just wait it out and be patient.
So I know that you've had some recruiters reaching out to you, kind of like asking like what the hell you've done, you know, especially since you didn't have the background in recruiting and you're doing great as a recruiter.
Thank you.
But with that, like, I'm sure a lot of the questions are tactical. Is there a question that you wish somebody would actually ask you, and what's that answer?
Ooh, that's a great question. All the questions are probably technical. If there's something I wish people would ask me, what would that be? I think the people's biggest issue is like, maybe if they would ask me like, what actions am I not taking to breed this result? And, you know, what am I not doing that I need to do? Because I feel like most of the people that I talk to that have wanted help, that I've hopped on calls with for free, I'll tell them here's literally everything I do. I'll spend an hour, 2 hours with you. Here's everything. You got your brand in a box, recruiter, never have to do outbound again. Here's everything you do. And then you see they never do anything. And it's just like, what are we not doing here? Right? And they want to hop on another call to pick your brain and do this and do that. When it's just like, you know exactly what you need to do, just do it. And so I think that'd probably be the question that I would have them ask, if that makes any sense at all.
You were talking earlier about how you were, you know, negative with a family in the bank account. How did you power through those hard weeks and those hard months?
Oof. I mean, you don't really have much of a choice. I mean, I didn't even know I could file for unemployment. Like, I had no idea about that. I'd never been laid off before. Like, I went, probably 6 of those months without ever filing for unemployment because I had no idea. And so I don't even know how or what I told myself then, but it was just like, it'll get better. It's just only temporary. That's the only thing I told myself. I'm more of a glasses overflowing full, everything's good and happy-go-lucky. And my wife is the other way around, which is fine. We need to balance each other out because I'll go crazy sometimes. But I don't really know what. It was just like, it'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Like, I have to. I have no other choice. And so it's like, when I joke about have a kid, lose your job. You have no other choice at that point. Like, push comes to shove, you'll figure it out. And so, yeah, I hope that answers your question there.
Oh, that's good. Well, for anybody that wants to follow you, I know we've been talking about branding and everything. How do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, it's Parker Chaney. You just type in, you'll find me on there. I've got a red background now, no longer purple. And then also, if you want to join my free group called the Recruiter Kingdom, where I have everything broken down there on how I built my brand, all the softwares I use, you can see everything. I've got post templates in there, putting a bunch of stuff in there to help recruiters out and having some great results there. You can join that. That'll be on my LinkedIn page. But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm in that group, and that's about it.
Outside of that, is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners?
I would say that if you're going to try this whole branding thing out, don't overwhelm yourself with trying to learn all these things. Just do a couple simple tasks. Start commenting on people's stuff. Make sure you're niche down. Write a couple posts. If it's a skill, it can be learned. It can be acquired. Writing is a skill, but it is a meta skill that trickles down into everything. It'll help your communication. It'll help your emails that you send to clients. It'll help your emails you send, your messages. It'll help everything. So learning that skill of writing, just like give it some time. It'll be well worth it. You spend an hour every Sunday writing 5 posts for the week. That brings in all your business. I have candidates come inbound too as well. Like, it helps everything all around. Like, I can't stress that enough. But yeah, just give it time. Give it 20 hours or so. I think that's what they say for learning a new skill. Give it 20 hours to be proficient at it and just do the action steps required.
Awesome. Man, it's been awesome to catch up with you. It's been exciting to just absolutely see the growth. One of the reasons why I loved our initial conversation in this one is because there's so many people out there that are like, you know what? I want to start a recruiting company. How do I do it? What do I do? How do I go about building a successful business for myself and my family? And, we are definitely a testament to just fucking figuring it out.
Thank you. Yeah.
But excited that you came on today and just shared how you've become this magnetic recruiter where the business has come to you, where you've stopped doing outbound for well over a year now, and the work is still there.
Mm-hmm.
The brand is still there. So excited about this episode. And for the recruiters out there, I know we're coming up into the tail end of 2024. Whatever you do between now and the rest of the year, it's going to set up a foundation. It's going to set you up for 2025. So make sure you prepare, put in the work, so that way you can crush it. Keep going, guys.